Today's video, we're going to sort out all the different types of styles that you can use when drawing cabinets. Each of them has their own special set of attributes that go along with it. So I'm going to show you each of the different types today and why you would choose one versus the other. So as you know, the way we draw cabinets in CabWriter is by the use of the story stick tool over here. Create a story stick. So a story stick is basically laying out where the various styles are in your cabinets. And in this case, styles, what they really are is either the end point of a cabinet or the transition between two boxes. So even in frameless cabinets that may not have styles, there's still a virtual style in that case, where the cabinets either two boxes come together or the cabinets end. So first we're going to talk about face frame cabinets, and because the styles are pretty obvious there, and then we'll switch over and talk about frameless cabinets and show you how the styles work in that particular case. So we're going to start out over here, and I'm going to draw a cabinet that goes from here to here and has two boxes in it. So we're up against a wall on this side, and over here is where a dishwasher is going to be. So that's what we call an opening. So we'll have an opening style there, and of course we'll have a style here, and there's a wall there. So we have a couple choices of what we could use there, and we'll talk about those as we draw it. So I'll start over here at the wall, and where my line, the 24-inch line from the wall intersects the wall is where my style is going to start at. So when you're drawing, you click the first point that you want, and you move over in the same line as the first point, and you can click anywhere. And then the style selector box comes up, and I'm going to choose a wall style in this case, and it's a right end wall style. And CabWriter knows how wide a wall style is, because we're going to go over here and take a look, and oops, I realized that I'm on frameless right now, and I really want to be in a face frame situation. So I've already stored some parameters into a file, which I talked about in another video, and I'm just going to reload my face frame settings in there. Now you'll see my face frame, and when I go to the face frame, I'm missing my filler style here, so I'm going to fill that in, and we'll talk about those later. And we can see that in this particular case on a base that our wall styles are 1.5 inches wide. And I'm going to go back to my story stick. I'm going to undo the one that I did because it was done with my frameless settings, and I'm just going to redo that. So pick a right end wall style, and notice it knows how big a wall style is for face frame, so it put it 1.5 inches wide, which is what we have it set for. And now I'm going to go down to this end here and choose my point where the opening starts for the dishwasher, and I'm going to go this direction to the right. Click here, and I'm going to call this a left end opening. And now we've defined the two ends of the cabinet, which you always do first in CabWriter. So anything in between is automatically considered a connector style. We'll talk about what that means in a second. But I've already got some marks on the floor here, so I'm going to go from here. And no matter how far I go over here, when I click, it automatically puts it 1.5 inches wide, because that's what I have things set for. So if we go back and look at our settings for face frame, base cabinet, my wall style is 1.5 inches wide. My connector style is also 1.5 inches wide. And it turns out my opening style is also 1.5 inches wide. So let's draw this cabinet and then talk about what some of the different attributes are of those styles. So it's asking me what the rightmost box is going to be, and we'll just call that a standard base with drawers. and it's pretty wide, so we'll do 2 doors and 2 drawers. And this one's going to be a sink cabinet. It's under the window and it's next to the dishwasher. I'm going to make that a sink base, 2 doors, 2 drawers. All right, so now we have our cabinet. One of the things that we get automatically when we create an opening style is this little filler piece, which I like to use on an opening to help back up this style in case it gets hit by the dishwasher on installation. It just stiffens it up a little bit. So that's why we use that. If we used a filler style, for example, we would get a style that looks exactly the same, but no filler piece here, oddly enough. We could use a wall style there as well, and it would still be 1.5 inches wide. But one of the differences with the wall style is, if we look at a wall style, we pull down the extended entity info box, which we talked about in other videos. But this gives the attributes of a part anywhere in the kitchen. And what it's telling us is it belongs to the subassembly of C16, and it's a lower face frame part. It's rough lumber, it's made of maple. It has cabinet mode turned on, which allows us to do some things like add additional resizing. What that does is, what it says is resize the thickness by 1/32 of an inch and resize the width by 1/2 inch. What that's doing is it's not drawing the extra 1/2 inch on there, and it's not drawing it a 1/32 thicker. But what it's doing is when you export this to the cut list, it will have, there's 2 columns on the cut list. There's one that's the actual size, and then the other column is is basically an oversized column. So any oversizing that we add will be added to the dimensions in that column. You can look at watch the video on cut list exporting, and we talk in more detail about that. But basically, what this width is adding is a scribe. So since this is a wall style, I want to build it not with 1.5 inch wide style, but a 2 inch wide style. I don't want to draw it here as a 2 inch wide style, but on my cut list, I want to make sure that extra 1/2 inch is added. So that's what you get with a wall style. Any part can be resized in thickness. And the reason I do this is because I want an extra 32nd thickness on my face frame so I can send them through the wide belt sander. Where do we set these? If we go back to our settings on cut list, here's all of our oversizing. So we can add, for scribe, it's on the first page here. So scribe allowance is a 1/2 inch. So if you specify a wall style, you automatically get an extra 1/2 inch in width for your scribe. If you go to the cut list tab and you want to have face frame oversizing, you can oversize the face frame thickness, and I've chosen to do that by a 1/32 of an inch. So that's where that extra 1/32 of an inch comes from. And that's applied to all parts on the face frame. So our wall style, what that gets us is an additional scribe allowance if we want it. And what an opening style gets us is this filler piece. Now a connector style, basically that's the style that just covers the transition between the 2 cabinets, but we get something additional. And if we turn off all of our doors, drawers, end panels, and face frames, you'll see these extra holes up here. There's 1, 2, and 3. What those are called are connector holes. And you see them going through on this side as well. And they are specified in this case as 5mm holes that go all the way through the part. And if you have a CNC, this will come out on the DXF files that you export, which we explain in another video. And they can be drilled all the way through precisely in the right spot on both of them. And you can use these 5mm connector barrel bolts that go through to connect your 2 cabinets together. Works really slick. So connector style automatically comes with those. So just beware, if you don't want those holes in there, you can turn that off. So
If you go to your settings to drilling, we can drill connector holes, yes or no. And if we talk about connector holes here, you can tell us the horizontal offset that we want from the front and the back edge, and then the vertical offset we want from the top, and the vertical offset from the base bottom. So you can position those where you want, or you can turn them off. But just keep in mind that those come with the connector style if you choose to use it. All right, so let's turn this back on again. I'm going to delete this cabinet. Actually, no, I'm not going to delete the cabinet. I'm going to delete the wall. So let's say we don't have a wall here, and we don't really want a wall style here anymore because we don't get anything here on the end, and we also don't want the additional scribe now. Let's turn this into an end panel, and we can do this. We don't have to redraw the cabinet. We can edit the cabinet. So if we say CabWriter, edit cabinet, do we want to use the cabinet stored defaults? We talk about this extensively in other videos. In this case, we want to use the stored defaults with the cabinet. We're not going to change any of the construction methods or anything like that. All we're going to do is change the style type. So we want to redraw the cabinet with what it was originally drawn with. So we used the stored defaults. And I'm sorry, what we really want to do here, never mind, is we want to edit the story stick. Because what we really want to do is change the style type. So notice that it's highlighted this style here on the right. We're not going to shift the style. We could shift it back and forth. I talk about this in the editing cabinets video. But right now we want to change its type. And instead of a right end wall, we want to change it to a right end panel. And now it's highlighting this style. We're not going to change the type on that. And we're also not going to change the type on this one. So that turned us into a panel. So what that does is it doesn't provide any additional width on there, but it does know that you're connected to a panel. So whatever construction method you've used to join to your side panel, it'll draw that properly. Right now we only support mitered corners, but we will have a butt joint soon. And of course, you can specify in the end panel tab all the characteristics that you want your end panel drawn as. Now, if you don't want a frame and panel, we could make this a different type of style. And we're going to edit the story stick again. And in this case, we're going to turn it into a right end sheet. So that's just going to put a plywood sheet there. Again, I'm not going to change any of the other style types. So now we just have a butt jointed piece of plywood there on the end. Again, we're not adding any scribe. If we were to go look at the extended entity info box, you'll see we're still, because it's a face frame number, we're resizing the thickness by a 32nd, but we're not resizing the width by anything. So on our cut list, it'll just come out as 1.5 inches wide. So that covers wall, panel, sheet, opening, and connector styles. So we only have a couple left here. So what we're going to talk about now is we're going to draw a couple corner cabinets here that butt into each other. One's blind and one's a butt. So I'm going to start over here, and we're going to make this an opening style because, again, that's the other side of our dishwasher opening. And we're going to draw another style here. And that is, oops, I made a mistake. So notice it's only giving me right choices for the right side. So I made a mistake here because this is the left side. If I drew it like this, it would think that the cabinet was facing the other direction. So I need to cancel out of here.
and I need to undo the story stick segment. And I need to go back and do this again and make this a right end opening. It's very important. The cabinet will be facing the wrong direction. I go down to my intersection where the corner comes together, and make this a left end butt style. And I'll show you in a sec here what that does for us. So I'm going to just make this now a standard base with drawers again. And if we look, we're going to see that this is actually 1 3/4 inches wide. Because we're in a corner here, you might want the style to be a little wider. That's why we provide a separate style for that. And also, if you'll notice, the toe kick base is sticking out a little further so that it intersects with the one coming this direction. Basically, what you've done is you've told CabWriter that this is a cabinet that butts into another, so it knows to put butt style, and it also knows to put an extended toe kick base so that it meets up properly. If we go look in our face frame specifications, a butt style is, where's the butt style? Right now, it is the same as the blind corner style. It applies to both the butt and the blind. We're going to break that out later into two separate settings, but for right now, this is what specifies what happens in the corner. There's no scribe or additional width that's applied to this. And we don't get connector holes, you can see on the inside there. It's just, you see it from this side here, we don't get any connector holes there, all right? Oops, so let's get back to where we were here. And now I'm going to draw the corresponding blind corner cabinet, which we do have a video on this. I'm not going to go into too much depth. But again, this is going to be a right blind corner style, and then here we're going to put an opening style because that's where our stove is, so left end opening. And this guy's going to be just a connector. And we'll just make this a standard base with drawers. And we'll make this a drawer. Okay. And notice that I got a special style here that is extra wide. But if I look here, based on that setting that we just saw of 1 3/4 inches that applies to both the corner type butt and blind styles, we get that, but we get this additional 1.5 inches that extends behind there. I can specify that in my settings. On the face frame, that's what this blind corner extension parameter does for me. It gives me that extra 1.5 inches. And I neglected to specify a blind corner cabinet box to go here, which is why it's not extending in the corner. I talk about this in more depth in the drawing blind corner cabinets video, so you can check that out. So that covers all the styles. This all the same thing applies to uppers. So we still have all the same types of styles that you can use for an upper as you can for a lower. Oh, there's one I forgot to cover. What do we do in the case of something like this, where we bump into say, a refrigerator cabinet? So we're going to put a style here. And if I used a wall style, that would get me extra scribe there. And I don't want scribe in this particular case. I'm just butting straight up against this. I just want it to be 1.5 inches wide style. Certainly not a panel. It's not a sheet. If I do an opening style, I'm going to get this little filler piece here. If I do a connector style, I'm going to get holes, assuming I connect to another cabinet. A butt and a blind are going to give me too wide of a style and extra characteristics with toe kicks that I don't want. So that's why we provide this filler style. It's just kind of a generic style that has no extra attributes to go along with it. It's whatever the width that you specified for it, which in this case is 1.5 inches, that's what you get. No other goodies. So it works great in this particular case. So here's an right end opening. I'll do it for this cabinet. And we'll just call this a drawer bank base. And there we go. This, if we look at the extended entity info, we get no additional width. We don't have any connector holes, we don't have any filler pieces. So it's a great kind of generic style to use. All right, so what do we do in the case of frameless? So I'm going to just select this cabinet, unlock it, and delete it. And the same with this one over here. Select the cabinet, unlock, and delete. So if we switch over to frameless, and I've got some settings for frameless that I'm going to load in. And if we go look at our face frame, we'll see that nothing is drawn. No rails, no styles, no nothing. So what do we do in this case? We don't have any styles. Well, in this case, things in some ways get a bit simpler because there is no styles, there's not a lot of width to worry about with them. And CabWriter makes some assumptions in this case. So let's draw this cabinet again. So this style, we have a bunch of choices now because I could choose a wall style and it would just not draw the style. I could use a, probably don't want to use a panel or a sheet style. I could even use an opening style. I wouldn't want to use a connector style because I would get those connector holes and I don't really want that. A filler is a nice generic style. I don't really want a blind or a butt because I'll get extended toe kick. So a nice one to use in this particular case is just the filler style. It's a generic style and it won't add any additional things, but notice it drew it as 3/4 inches wide. Because there's no style and it's frameless, CabWriter assumes that it's just the width, that style is just the width of the cabinet side, which in our case is 3/4 inch. If it was set to something else, that's how wide it would draw the style here on the screen. If I go to this side and do the right end opening, same thing happens. I get a 3/4 inch wide style. You'll see how that makes sense when I draw the cabinet here. Just call this a drawer bank base. So basically, what it's assuming is the style is just as wide as this cabinet side. That's why, since I'm really not drawing the style, I don't get and with frameless, I don't get a filler piece. I could have just as easily used an opening style over here and a filler style over here, or a wall style, because none of them give me any extra attributes on the cabinet sides or the toe kick. But since there's no actual style and it's just a virtual style, it's just considered the width of the cabinet. Now, if I wanted to draw a frameless cabinet over here that had an opening on this side, left hand opening, and over here, I'm going to just draw it as a right end filler. I want it to be as generic as I can. And I'm going to still put a connector style in here. And notice it's still 1.5 inches wide. That's because there's 2 cabinet sides in there. So it's making the style as wide as that. So when you're placing styles, you're assuming that if there's no style on an end, you're getting the width of the cabinet side. And if you're putting a connector style in the middle, you're getting it the width of 2 cabinet sides. So when you're laying stuff out on the floor, just keep that in mind.
And we're going to make this drawer bank base. Nope, make this one a standard base with drawers. And this one will make a drawer bank combo base. I have the two little drawers up top. Now, if we notice, this is an exposed cabinet end. And we've got holes drilled in here. These are called construction holes. And we talk more about this in our drilling video, but I really wouldn't want those showing if this was a finished end. So what I could do is go back into my drilling tab and say, do not drill the construction holes on this cabinet. Or I could manually go in and delete those. Problem with turning this off is when I redraw this cabinet, I won't get construction holes on any of these cabinet ends, but I do want them there. So I could do it either way. In this case, what I'd probably do is go in and just delete these holes if I didn't want them. So that pretty much covers the types of styles. You'll notice in the style box that there's a whole bunch of styles related to corner cabinets, and we'll cover those in our corner cabinet drawing videos. And the refrigerator cabinet styles are still standard styles, but we'll cover drawing refrigerator cabinets in another video. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy drawing your styles.